Hello viewers, welcome to our program on immigration and public affairs. I am your immigration attorney Michael Fulwani, and once again I have my partner David Nachman with me. David, welcome.
Thanks, Michael. Always a pleasure.
Now, if you guys recall, I hope that many of you who are viewing this program today also watched our program last Saturday, and we spent a lot of time on that program trying to explain you about the Dreamers program, about what the requirements are and what kind of documentation may be needed, but still we could not complete, and we'll lot more to tell you about that, about the pitfalls, what may happen in the future, about the benefits and some related issues is very, very important, because I know that everybody who thinks he's qualified is jumping into immediately filing, and we said that take a little time, collect all the documents. A week or 2 weeks delay is not a big problem. The main important thing is two things. You must be fully prepared, put in all the documents that are needed to prove all the requirements of the law. Number two, there are a lot of scams, a lot of fraud going on, that those people want your money, they may not do a good job, and you, instead of getting the deferred action, you may get into something else, some problems. So with this we start again today's program. In our last program we did talk about documentation needed to prove that you came under the age of 16, and then we also talked about the 5-year residence requirement from June 15, 2007 to June 15, 2012. Now let's move on to other areas. One is very simple in 1 minute. Requirement that today, when on June 15th, you were under the age of 31. That is simple. Just look at the birth certificate and see under 13 or not.
Exactly.
But there is something more to that. We did talk about AR-11 also, that you have to show that if you moved from one place to another, the AR-11 form was filed.
Yep.
Now, something that we still did not talk about is the crimes. They say that you should not have committed a crime, especially a significant crime, and David is going to...
Significant misdemeanor.
Misdemeanor.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, actually, the way the law works, kind of interestingly, is that they've divided crimes into 3 classifications. There are misdemeanors, which you don't have to be worried about too much, because misdemeanors are crimes which are less than 365 days, in jail. So it's I guess analogous to the de minimis exception under the normal immigration laws for crimes. And then you have this thing called felonies. If you have a felony conviction, unfortunately, that's very, very bad.
Generally, felony is somewhere that punishment of
in
more
excess
than
of 1 year,
yeah.
Exactly. And then for the first time we've seen in the immigration law, there's something called significant misdemeanors. And significant misdemeanors are interesting because there is actually an allocation in the rule about what they mean by a significant misdemeanor. So there are things like there are references to battery, to robbery, sexual assault, and they are considering DUI, driving under the influence, to be one of these significant misdemeanors. So this is the first time that we've actually seen this in the law. It does not necessarily have a definition. So what we're doing is we're sort of waiting for more guidance from the government. Now, what they're doing is they're saying, though, that a significant misdemeanor is one in which you can get 90 days of jail time. So that's a little...
David, may I mention something? This is a little bit of a technical part. When you are looking at a crime,
very technical,
and we strongly recommend, we generally say that this is a good idea for anybody who is applying for a Dreamer program, that he must consult a good immigration experienced lawyer. But especially if somebody has a crime, that becomes even more important, because that's not very easy. Even for our lawyers, we have to do research sometime.
Well,
we have to see.
Right.
We have to see in state laws, because in the United States, there's a different law on crimes on each state.
Exactly.
So somebody did in Nashville, Tennessee may be different, somebody did in California, it is different. So a good lawyer will look into the criminal law of that particular state, trying to make it, sure that it is significant or not significant.
Exactly.
So that's a piece of advice that we can give to them.
That's exactly right, Michael, and it's very important to analyze completely the person's background if they've had any type of issue at all with a law enforcement agency. And for example, just to give you an idea of how technical this can be, remember we talked about misdemeanors, and we said that, well, tickets generally, traffic tickets don't matter. However, if you received 3 traffic tickets, which were federal traffic tickets, then those do rise to a potential felony, because unfortunately those come under a special federal law where those misdemeanors can be aggregated and are much worse than just tickets. So it's very bad.
So again, I keep on repeating, I'm
It's
sorry.
no, you're absolutely right. It's technical.
Don't go to those people who say, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Give the form, sign here, give me the money. Here the form, sign here, don't give me money. Because obviously, as you can understand from our talk, from our presentation, our information, that this has to be done very carefully in terms of what we are saying in the application, what documents are we giving, and what kind of problems can happen if it is
Well, Michael,
not right.
two more areas where this is really a hotbed and shows the technical aspects of it is, one, whether you have an expungement, and two, whether you have juvenile convictions, because juvenile convictions generally are never a problem for immigration. However, what they're saying under DACA is that they're going to look and use what's called the totality of the circumstances test for juvenile convictions.
Okay.
And also for the expungements. Generally for immigration law, an expungement doesn't work. However, what they're saying now is under DACA, expungement will work, but again, totality of the circumstances.
Okay, let's talk about an important question. What is the effect of somebody that has been previously deported or removed from the country, somebody that is still in the proceedings of deportation, removal proceedings, somebody that has been granted a voluntary departure, he never left the country? These are the issues. There are a lot of our students, a lot of our people who have this situation. They applied for a political asylum and they never went and appeared and they got deported. There's a deportation order against them. They are worried if we apply, the immigration is going to come and arrest us and we deported.
Right.
Those who are proceeding. Let's give them that information. That's very important.
Right. Well, I'm going to object to that question because it's a compound question, counsel.
So deportation related.
You would have been a good trial attorney,
Okay,
Michael.
let me make a
But
small question.
One question at a time,
Deported
because
or
it's a really
removal
tough one.
related issues.
So if you have an individual who has a final order, can they qualify for DACA? The answer is yes. They can qualify for DACA. Even though there might be a final order, as long as they qualify under all the other parameters, the answer is yes, they can file for the benefit of deferred action, and the way they do it is before the CIS. So that's the answer to the first question. The next one is, let's say you have an individual who's in proceedings. Then, of course, what you would do is make a motion to have the case terminated and then pursue the ability to file for the affirmative benefit of deferred action for childhood arrivals. If you have an individual who has voluntary departure who has not yet overstayed their voluntary departure time, because that, of course, becomes a final order if they overstay. But if you have an individual who has taken voluntary departure, what you would want to do is go back, make a motion to reopen the case, probably terminate the case, the proceeding, and then pursue the ability to file the affirmative benefit under the DACA.
See, specifically,
did I
this
answer
whole
all the
program,
questions?
perfect,
Yeah,
perfect.
thank
But
you.
I want to add little.
Thank you.
Specifically, when you say deferred status, what is deferred? What they are deferred means they are deferring, they are putting on hold the deportation of the people who are deportable.
That's right.
That's the main thing. Under
And
which
it's discretionary.
discretionary, but once it is granted, they are protected from deportation, because that's what keep on asking the same question. But I have a warrant of arrest on deportation. But yes, we all know that, and that's the whole purpose of the deferred action.
Right.
So you shouldn't worry about that.
So now I'm going to ask you the $200,000 question, which is not a compound question, and that is, can DACA be taken away? Can your DACA benefits be revoked, or is the program going somewhere?
Well, I
Can it
think
be
I have to
terminated?
give a little bit of information on that. Is this. The DREAM Act, if it would have passed, that would have been a law. That law is passed by the Congress. Nobody can take it away except the Congress itself. But this is not something that the Congress has passed.
That's right.
This is the President's policy.
Correct.
The policy can be changed anytime.
That's right.
So that's a little question that comes to us.
That's right.
Which I did a big program recently in a Rotary Club, and
Yep.
saying election year immigration. And the issue here is political.
Right.
If, let us say, if Obama is re-elected, he's probably going to hold on to the same policy.
He's going
and
to use it
continue.
as a cornerstone for comprehensive
Exactly.
immigration
Because this is
reform.
only a 2 years
Right.
validity, 2 years. And after 2 years, it says that if the program is still there, you can renew it for another 2 years going forward. And hopefully the DREAM Act gets passed, then you can also get a green card and path the citizenship.
That's right.
Now, assuming that unfortunately if Obama is not elected, the other party is elected, then
It's
my
any-
personal
anyone's guess.
opinion is they are not going to interrupt and stop in the middle, like terminate the ones that were already got a
That's
EAD.
right, because they're going to have 1.79 million
Exactly.
class action lawsuit,
But
right?
but what they can do, they can just decide not to continue further.
Right. Michael, I think it's time for a short break, and then what we'll do is we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about confidentiality and how the information which is given to the CIS can or cannot be used against the individuals and their families.
We have a lot to talk about, and the breaks become so fast and the program goes away very short. But just stay tuned. We'll be back after the break. We'll give you a lot of good information that will be very helpful to you in applying for the Dreamer program. So stay tuned. We will be back. Welcome back, and just before the break we were talking about various issues related to the dreamers, people that want to apply for a dream action under which a person is granted permission to stay for 2 years and also employment authorization, but no travel at this time. Now this is a question that came up in the prior to the break was when we were talking about people that are under deportation and all that, and if they cannot be deported because if their status is deferred, then that's fine. However, what happens if this program doesn't continue and 2 years down the road the new administration is there, new Congress is there, they may not extend that. What happens, because people are worried that they already have our fingerprints, photos, address, and they have a deportation order also. Can they not execute that deportation? Can they not deport us because that deferred thing goes away? So that we're trying to explain is that, or we should try to explain that under the policy decision they made, they said that this information is confidential. The government cannot use to enforce the enforcement, like deporting or arresting people based upon what they applied. I mean, that reminds me of 1986 when the amnesty law was passed by the Congress during President Reagan's time. Law very clearly said that this information you are applying for an amnesty is confidential. If your application for amnesty is denied, that information cannot be used to deport you or put you in proceedings or for any other purpose.
Right.
I had one case, that case will give you an idea. This guy was married to a US citizen, real marriage in Connecticut. He applied for the green card, but they had some old file of the amnesty in which his father, mother and him name was included. He was only at 10, 11 years old. But under that program, he did not mention about that in the application. Have you ever applied for an immigrant visa? And that was denied, and some wrong information was given also by parents, not even him alone. But they denied this case. Real marriage they denied. And he came to us and I said, but there is a confidential problem. We went on appeal to Washington. And we filed an appeal. First we said this not real, he was a child and all that shouldn't apply. Then we issued the legal point that then the law says that you cannot use that information for enforcement.
Right.
And we were actually trying to get in the waiver part also. If so, then the waiver applied. But they did not look at other issues. They simply immediately 1 page, half a page decision. We agree that information is confidential. The officer who denied this case should not have denied. He cannot use that information. So they mean the courts, the law stood behind that. And hopefully, I don't know, it's not legislative thing, but it is administrative thing.
But you hope that that would be a good
Good
precedent
faith,
that would be followed.
people relied upon good faith about the policy.
Exactly.
They said they were told, when they applied, they were told that we will not use this information to deport you or
Correct.
to put enforcement.
Correct.
So that's the best information we can give you.
Correct. I agree with you, Michael. I think that the provisions are clear, that there will be a level of confidentiality with regard to the information that's submitted on behalf of the DACA beneficiaries. However, the government, of course, did leave the door open, and they said that they can use the information for other things such as law enforcement or tax enforcement or something else.
Also
And
the
that's
fraud they make in
and
this
fraud,
application.
that's right.
In this application they are making. They put a false high school certificate.
Well, they actually went a step further, and they said that if you commit fraud in this application, which really leads us to get a little worried for
Exactly.
people who go to notarios, because that's where potential fraud could happen, is that if you commit fraud, they will go after you as an enforcement priority if there's fraud committed in this case. So that's a little troublesome to me too. So that's all the more reason to make sure that you meet the criteria and that you seek out competent legal counsel to do these applications for yourselves.
I can tell you, David, based on my experience of 40 years, that there are a number of people, number of viewers of this TV program that applied for a political asylum, not even knowing this is a political asylum. They were told, oh, there's a new program under which I can get you a permission to work. And the person say, okay, how much? 2,000, 3,000.
Right.
I get a permission to work, I get a driver license, everything. They paid the money. And whoever applied, they got an employment card. Once they got an employment card, they were happy. Mera kaam to ho gaya. My job is done. No. When they got an interview letter, they went, some people did not even go for the interview, they were worried. Some people went for the interview and they were denied and they were put in deportation proceedings. So they have outstanding orders of deportation, and then after they got married, whatever they did is a big issue. Whether we should proceed with your case or not, you have a warrant of arrest against you.
Right.
So then they realized that they were a part of that scam. They were,
They were scammed.
victims of a crime.
That's right.
So in a way, I'm bringing that old story back in here also.
Right. Well, that was Asylum many years ago. Recently, what they did is the notarios figured out that by filing family unity applications, they would be able to get the work authorization too.
Whenever, David, a new program is announced,
right.
these people jump in trying to make money and disappear.
That's
and
right.
then you go to them,
Well, when
they're
they-
not either there, they're
When
gone.
the individuals get called for the interview, unfortunately, they end up getting put into deportation proceedings. So,
Right.
yeah, it's
So-
sad. It's sad.
Now, a couple of other things I want to mention. As I said, there's no travel permitted, but somebody applies for an advance parole,
Correct.
he can get an advance parole. And question is to you, if he has an advance parole, permission to travel, then why he cannot travel? What will happen if he does that?
Well, it's kind of an interesting area that's really burgeoning right now. I guess I had met with a young lady who is a potential DACA beneficiary the other day. She's 16 years old. She wants to apply. She clearly qualifies for the program. She entered before she was 16. She met all the criteria, and because she is 16, she won't accrue unlawful presence. So that when and if she continues to extend the DACA benefits for herself, she then will have the ability to use the I-131 travel document, which she can apply for after she is approved for DACA benefits, and she can travel in and out of the United States. She will be readmitted as a parolee, and then, of course, that gives her the opportunity, hopefully later on, to adjust her status.
He gets married and applies for the case. The officer is going to say no, but you travel outside, so you are subject to a 10-year bar.
Well, then you have people who have accrued unlawful presence,
Exactly.
where they've overstayed in the United States, and the Deferred Action Program doesn't wipe out their unlawful presence. But now we have this case called Arabelli,
Yes.
which just came down, and that's a very interesting one. Although it hasn't actually, it's not tested in the realm of TPS or DACA, it has been tested in adjustment of status. And what that case says is that if you traveled outside the United States and you're readmitted on your advance parole travel document, then you can be paroled in, and then you become a parolee, and you can adjust your status in the United States.
Nevertheless, David, if somebody is already done and comes to us, we can use the court case to fight and try to get the benefit.
That's the
but I will
idea.
not encourage. If somebody we know when goes out, he'll be subject to the 19-year bars, then he's going to come back, then we're going to apply, then with Yarabelli we're going to. I would say the good idea is, best idea is be careful, avoid, avoid. We can talk about if you run into this problem, we can solve it. Then we are encouraging them. Okay, go, no problem at all if you do that. I would say don't travel even with advance parole. I mean, there's
It's a separate analysis.
Yeah.
It's a separate analysis. First, focus on getting the benefits.
Correct.
Once you have the benefits, then obviously you go back to your legal counsel, or you go back, and then you figure out, okay, now that I have the benefit, the DACA benefit, can I travel? So it's the next level of analysis.
I put in this way that there was a case, then person's father died. He says green card or no green card, coming back or not, I will take whatever chance I have to go for the funeral of my father. Okay, he made a personal decision, came back, and then it worked out under this.
Right.
But I would not encourage that. And then somebody says, oh, I have my cousin's marriage, so going to attend. I mean, basically my question is, can you do without it? When you go next time, maybe you have a celebration with him or party with him. Wait for a little time until you get a green card.
Exactly.
So listen to a good advice that is given by Mr. David Nachman and Michael Fulvani, and do what is the right thing to do. always I do what is the right thing to do, keep away from fraud, keep away from people that commit fraud, be straight line, put in all the documents, prepare everything that you have. I think we always run out of time. Basically, I think still we have to talk about few things. I mean, I don't know whether we can do in this program, otherwise we'll come back again, David. And we have never talked about details of the different kind of forms to be filled. And there is probably a worksheet for getting employment authorization.
That's right.
Luckily, we still have some more time after the break. So let us take a short break, and after the break, we can come and talk about these issues.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned. We will be back. Welcome back. And just before the break, we were talking about many issues related to the applying for a deferred action program, and we want to continue further on this. And there was a question also, one of the applicants sent to us, in that there are different forms, and I'm going to David to explain to you what are the forms that have to be filed and what is the purpose of each form. And especially there's one sheet that is a worksheet about getting an employment authorization of 765 a separate application. Additional list is that you have to prove, you have to show why do you need a permission to work. So what is the need for getting a permission to work? So David, why don't you go in, what are the three forms? Explain to the people.
Yeah, we'll go through the forms really quickly, or
Yeah.
really what it is that should be in the package that
Yes.
you're submitting
Correct.
for deferred action for childhood arrival benefits. So the first form, which is the, I guess, the main application form for the benefit, is the I-821D form. That's the new form that was recently promulgated. It came out on, I believe, the 14th or 15th of August.
Yes.
And
Isn't
it's a-
the fee requirement of 460 or something like that?
There is, and that form, actually, that fee doesn't really apply to the I-821D. It actually applies to the 765.
765,
And
yeah.
the 765 is a $380 fee for the 765, and it's an $85 fee for the biometrics connected to the I-765.
So talk about the 765. Now
so
the
the
revised
DA
form.
So
yeah.
there's really no charge for the DACA benefit, okay? It's just that you're being charged for the I-765.
And this is a new form, first time created, right?
Correct, and the I-765 form
Even
was,
that is revised now, the new form for the
it was
dreamers?
also revised. It was recently it was repromulgated. It's not very much different than the one that existed before. However, the government wants you to use the form that was promulgated after August 15th of 2012. So the forms are the I-821D, the I-765, which is the employment authorization document application, the I-765WS, which is the 765 worksheet. You would also be submitting, of course, supporting documentation. You will also want to submit 2 color passport photographs, and we always recommend that you put your name on the back and along with your birth date on the back of those
And all other documents that
photographs.
we previously mentioned in this and
Right, the
earlier
supporting
program,
documentation.
supporting for each the age and when entered and everything else.
Correct, and the fees made payable to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. The package would be submitted to the lockbox. The instructions tell you the places that are accepting the applications under the rules. So they're being accepted at the lockboxes. We anticipate that they will be receipted in. You'll be receiving a receipt, and then you'll get a biometrics notice. The biometrics notice will tell you to come for your fingerprints and photographs. And then the question is, what happens? And that is, does the case roll out with an automatic approval, or does the case get audited, which it could happen because the district office stakeholders meeting in Newark recently announced that they will be randomly auditing the cases and having some of the DACA beneficiaries show up for interviews.
And generally speaking, like other forms, adjustment and all that, not everybody is going to have an interview. I would say maybe a small
right.
number, only a small
Random.
number of people will be called.
Correct.
Most of them, when they go through the application approval, and you get approval notice in the mail.
Exactly.
Right? Now, let me just say what the forms say something else. May look simpler to you. Some people ask, can I do myself? The law doesn't say that you need an attorney. If you know exactly what you are doing, you can fill up. But I can tell you from our experience, हमारे हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना पर्दे के पीछे क्या है, means what is behind the curtain. It looks simple form, name, address, this, yes, no. But the government is looking from their different point of view. They are looking at each requirement. How is it met with? What are the supporting documents? Have you established that particular condition? Are you eligible or not? So our advice is that if you know exactly whatever things we are talking about, there is no requirement, you do yourself. But it's always a good idea to have somebody who is very experienced, knowledgeable, and sit with you and help you to do in a proper way. That's my suggestion.
Exactly. Now, if you would like some additional information about the process, what you can do is go on to www.uscis.gov or to our channel on YouTube. We have a great presentation that's a slideshow on exactly what to do in order to gain DACA benefits. So that's available to you too. Michael, I think this is about time. We've run out of time, unfortunately, but we'll be back to our viewing audience next week, and hopefully we'll be able to discuss some additional nuances in this program.
David, thank you very much for watching the program.
Michael, always.
Thank you very much, viewers, for watching the program. Namaste, Adab, Sat Sri Akal. फिर से मिलेंगे next Saturday at 1 p.m. only on TV Asia.
मैं तो सरोज को अपने घर की लक्ष्मी बनाकर ला रही थी। क्या हो गया?